What's going on, my friends? We're on YouTube. How we sounding? Everything looks good. Sounds good. We're going to start up Facebook too. I'm going to do the dual live stream because I'm pretty excited about this one. What's going on, Facebook? I got the whole YouTube Facebook double situation going on because I'm excited to share this information that I can almost guarantee the mainstream media is going to suppress and try to either destroy or not cover at all. This is perhaps one of the most credible people in the field to date to question the mainstream media narrative, which is pretty exciting. Luc Montagnier, who was given a Nobel Prize in 2008, I believe, for his discovery of HIV. He didn't discover it in 2008. I believe that's when he got his Nobel Prize, though. He came out recently and he believes, he said it on television and he's also saying it on podcasts, he believes that coronavirus is a man-manipulated, man-made virus that was, leaked from the lab. This is massive. This is huge because when I say it, they say, be quiet. You're not a scientist. When other people speculate that it could be possible, they censor their videos. But this guy's extremely credible in the health field. I'm going to repeat that again. Luc Antoine Montagnier is a French virologist and joint recipient of the 2008 Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine for his discovery of human immunodeficiency virus. So he discovered HIV. He has a Nobel Prize to prove it, and he's going all around telling people that he believes it is a man-made virus. In his own words, he believes that SARS-CoV-2 is a manipulated virus that was accidentally released from a lab in Wuhan, China. He says that Chinese researchers have said that they've been using coronaviruses in their work to develop an AIDS vaccine, and he believes that HIV DNA fragments are found in SARS-CoV-2. This is not my opinion. This is not my perspective. This is not a conspiracy theory, although I will say that conspiracy theorists have been saying this for quite a bit now. But this is huge. I mean, this guy has massive credibility. They're going to try to destroy him. If you search his name right now, you could barely find anything. You have Gilmore Health News. You have Asia Times just reported on it. But when you listen to how they report on it, they say, French professor sparks furor with lab leak theory. So they report it like it's a negative. Huffington Post in France reported on it. A lot of foreign news is reporting on it. And I guarantee you here in the States, they're going to catch up soon. They're always like a couple days or a couple weeks behind me and other people, but they'll catch up or they'll just try to cover it up. But this is massive. And once again, I'm not claiming I know everything. I never have. I'm not trying to override the majestic scientists of this world, but science is not a consensus. Scientific theory is real. Scientific consensus is the big bureaucratic bullies trying to bully everybody into discovering things. When this guy and his team discovered the HIV, it wasn't everybody. Thousands of scientists think that you can't do it and you can't find it, so that's the consensus. If one person makes an invention or finds a discovery, whether it's Watson and Crick or it's him with a scientific discovery in your body, it's not the groups of thousands of people. It's not a consensus. Science is not a popularity contest. It never was. So I don't understand this pressuring of people not to question things, because now we have a lot more on our side for people who have been speculating in this month. The Nobel Prize winner of 2008, HIV discoverer, person who discovered it, is now thinking that as well. We're going to read the article. We're going to say exactly what he's saying and what's going on. We're going to talk about it. We're going to use facts. I use my source, the video footage, and the article. Then we're going to have a good time and we'll answer some questions. God bless you guys. God bless your family. I'm going to drink some Wellness Rescue. I like to have a little shot to get it going. We'll do some shout outs for a minute and then we'll keep it moving. Woo. Got some oil of oregano, elderberry, ginger root, cayenne pepper. That's why it's so spicy. Woo. All right. I need some water. Wow. Wow. There's so much cayenne in there. Can I drink cayenne? Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx, CNN, Coronavirus Task Force. Am I allowed to drink cayenne pepper? Can I do that? Is it okay? Is it okay for my health, or should I sit inside and not get sunshine for two months? Please tell me. Please tell me if I can do this or not. I need the health experts to tell me. Usually I watch television, they tell me to drink Coca-Cola and eat McDonald's. But anyway, let's see who we got. James, what's going on? God bless you guys. Violet, what's going on? Lydia said, anomaly interviewed Shiva. Yeah, I'm going to put it on. I'll put it on my social later. Sorry, I got caught up today, but I had a great interview conversation with Dr. Shiva. It was mostly him when about this stuff. I'm like, he was on fire. I'm like, man, you go ask a few questions, and that boy can move. I know they're starting to target him as well, but I'm very honored and had a great conversation with Dr. Shiva Ayudari, I believe his last name is. He's a great guy. Very interesting takes on it as well as a scientist with 4 PhDs who doesn't play the mainstream narrative. So if you want to see that interview first, you can look on Dr. Shiva's Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. It's all up there. If you want to wait, I'm probably going to try to chop up cool clips from that, and then I'll put the whole video out probably today or tomorrow, but I got a little busy. Let's see who we got. And if you want to know about the Facebook censor stuff, to be honest, I never got involved with it, not because I'm a sellout or I'm selfish, but because I do see even conservatives or truth tellers or holistic people, some people are just too sloppy. You know, you can't be sloppy with your research. So I see people, even though I might have overlap in the health community or whatever, but they just will post anything with no sources and no research. They never came for me until recently. They did. And I didn't even do anything. So, you know, now it's getting real. And that's not, I always stand up for people when they get censored, but some people do actually not tell the truth. So it's like, if you get fact checked and you literally lied, you got to stop lying, or at least, you know, try to be a little bit more accurate. But when my video is going to age better than the fact checker's little stupid article, now it's getting a little weird. Facebook is partnering with World Health Organization, who have misled people for quite a bit. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, they just made a mistake. You know, in January, that was the information that they got. In February, that's the information they got. That's really just not true. That's what they wanted to believe. They had reports from December, emails telling them that it might be human-to-human transmission. There's other scientists on the planet. There's not 1 or 2 scientists. It's not this bureaucratic pyramid scheme where there's only 1 or 2 people or 1 or 2 government corporations that control the narrative of science. That's not how science works. So they said it. Other people warned them. They ignored it. You could look at reports now, Vice News. It's all over the place. Not that Vice is really that credible, but it's all over the place. China knew early on, and then they told the world, they say for 6 days. That's the new report. For 6 days, they lied to people. That's tens of thousands of travel. They knew. The WHO, the World Health Organization, believed them. They ignored other scientists. They ignored other reports. They pushed that narrative. They pushed the fear and stigma narrative. They even got our Surgeon General on March 30th to say that masks aren't a good idea. And then he changed his opinion and didn't give a good reason. Like, hey, now we should use masks because all the medical people got masks. To be honest, the medical people still don't have masks. I'm getting complaints from nurses in Washington who have to keep reusing their mask. We're making ventilators. That's great. Let's get some masks to these people, you know? So we're being deceived. And the people, I expect it from the media. Let's get started in a second. I expect it from the media. What I'm a little, I won't even say surprised because I don't get surprised by anything. It's these pseudo-intellectual like conservatives who are trying to act like, you know, they're demonizing anybody who's asking questions. They're demonizing anybody who disagrees with the task force or President Trump. That's the weirdest part to me. They're like, don't you dare question this at all. Even if I disagree with them scientifically, I'm not going to shut them up and say, you're not allowed to question the fact that you're in the house. The data, the models, all this stuff, before I start, the entire theory of social distancing, which I was behind for a while because, you know, that's what the experts said. I don't want lives to be ruined. The whole theory relies on the fact that the virus was only here for a certain amount of time so we can hide from the virus and shield ourselves and protect ourselves and kill the virus and not let hospitals get overwhelmed. If the virus wasn't here just in January, like they suspect, if it was here in December, November, September, October, the whole theory of social distancing doesn't make sense. You can't hide from a virus and shield it if you're 3 months off when you think it came. So science is not settled like they say. The data, the models, they were never accurate to begin with. They were doing the best that they could do, or they were doing what they said was the best that they can do, and other scientists can do better. That's just the reality of science. If 10 million scientists say that Albert Einstein, you know, isn't right, and then he comes up with something and can prove it via engineering, the Wright brothers, you can't do this. If they build a plane, the naysayers don't matter. It's not a consensus. It's great when you have a lot of people who agree with you, but the revolutionaries in the science community, such as Luc Montagnier, who I'm about to get into, and others, they're not the followers. They're not the ones who listen to their professors. A lot of the people who own the companies dropped out of college because it's the radicals who discover things. It's Watson and Crick. There's reports that they were on LSD. I'm not saying it's true. That's unconfirmed, but it takes a certain type of person and a certain type of mind to discover things. And I'm not saying that they were, you need to be on that, but it's not the little goody two shoes who listen to their professor who discovered DNA. It's not the goody two shoes. It's the people who think differently. It's the people who, have something or look somewhere that other people don't look. Those are the inventors. Those are the creators. Those are the discoverers. Those are the explorers. So this idea that you should just fall in line with what three people are saying is the most outlandish, goofy narrative out there. And of course, because I'm an easy target because I'm not in the science profession, I don't have 11 PhDs and I don't, study health for a living. So I'm an easy target for people to say, don't say that. But now it gets a little more interesting because recently the man, Luc Montagnier, who discovered HIV, who has a Nobel Prize in medicine in 2008 for discovering it, says Chinese coronavirus is a man-made virus, according to him. And let's get into why he thinks so. Professor Luc Montagnier, 2008 Nobel Prize winner for medicine, claims that, and if you're on Facebook, you can follow along if you'd like. I posted the link so people know that this is not misinformation. This is just what one guy saying. Claims that SARS-CoV-2 is a manipulated virus that was accidentally released from a laboratory in Wuhan, China. Chinese researchers are said to have used coronavirus in the work to develop an AIDS vaccine. HIV DNA fragments are believed to have been found in the SARS-CoV-2 genome. It gets better, guys, because I know that sounds scary that HIV mixed with SARS-CoV. That's what he's saying. Of course, I can't prove that. This will all come out in the future unless they cover it up. We'll get to the bottom of it because right now they still don't quite know. Here's what he's saying. With my colleague, biomathematician Jean-Claude Perez, we carefully analyzed the description of the genome of this RNA virus, explains Luc, interviewed by Dr. Jean-Francois Lemoyne. That was pretty good. I'm not usually good with, French, but for this daily podcast at Pourquoi, all right, I'm not even going to try that. I'm not even going to try to say that podcast, sorry. He said, adding that others have already explored this avenue, Indian researchers have already tried to publish the results of this analysis that showed that the coronavirus genome contains sequences of another virus, the HIV/AIDS virus, but they were forced to withdraw their findings as pressure from the mainstream was too great. He said in this challenging question, Dr. Jean-Francois Lemoyne inferred that the coronavirus under investigation may have come from a patient who is otherwise infected with HIV. No, says Luc Montagnier, in order to insert HIV sequence in this genome, molecular tools are needed, and that can only be done in a laboratory. So he believes his team found that it was in a laboratory, it was man-made, man-altered, but there's good news in his theory. I'm saying, once again, this is a theory. He has I'm sure, evidence to back it up, but you got to talk to him. I'm not going to claim that I do, but he says the truth will eventually come out. He says, in any case, this thesis has a positive turn. The altered elements of this virus are eliminated as it spreads. He says, nature does not accept any molecular tinkering. It will eliminate these unnatural changes, and even if nothing is done, things will get better. But unfortunately, there are many deaths. So this is massive. If I say it, Alex Jones is actually, to be quite honest, I listen to a little bit of everybody to see what they're saying. I don't always agree with their approach or what they're saying. That's why I do my own thing. But people on his network that has been massively banned, they banned 3 more people, including Owen Schroyer, off Twitter yesterday. He has been saying that they found, or they thought that there was HIV elements in the SARS-CoV-2. They were saying that, others were speculating. I know Epoch Times says it. They get massively censored by Facebook and others. But to have the guy who found and discovered the HIV come out and say that he believes he has proof that it was man-altered, it couldn't have come from a patient. It didn't come from pangolins or bats or whatever they say, unless it was extracted and then manipulated, and he believes it was accidentally released. Of course, my videos get massively fact checker now, and I'm sure Facebook's going to try to crack down and say, you can't possibly think that. It's not possibly true. But this is taking the credibility of that theory on a whole nother level. And when I said it, I didn't state that it was. I asked the question, could this have possibly been man-made? And why would I ask that question? Why would I think that it could possibly be man-made? It's not really hard to figure out why. I did my research. I found out that viruses, although this one may or may not be, I found out that they could be man-altered, that you could actually have a patent on a virus, and that it's very commonly known that, let me see, I'm going to look it up, that this was a major threat that was facing our world. So much so that even Bill Gates a couple years ago, he even admitted it. I'm going to play that again for people because for some reason when I say it, it's this crazy theory that could never ever possibly be true. But when Bill Gates says it, I think people take it at face value more when it comes to the well-educated left or whatever you want to call it.
We also face a new threat that the next epidemic has a good chance of originating on a computer screen of a terrorist intent on using genetic engineering to create a synthetic version of the smallpox virus or a contagious and highly deadly strain of flu.
All right, let's run it back.
We face a new threat that the next epidemic has a good chance of originating on a computer screen of a terrorist intent on using genetic engineering to create a synthetic version of the smallpox.
So he even said back then, he said, one of the biggest threats that we face is a pandemic. He said it could occur in nature, but it also could be a bioterroristic threat originating on a computer screen. Luc Montagnier, Nobel Prize winner, says, we did our research. We believe that this was discovered on a computer screen. And, the water carriers at Facebook, at Google, in the mainstream media, these fact checkers at USA Today, these pseudo-intellectual conservatives who have big followings on Twitter who are misleading their people and telling them that questioning this at all is somehow dangerous, and listen to the bureaucratic experts who are not really quite as wise and accurate as they may think. You should all be extremely ashamed of yourself because, it's all going to come out. The truth always does. And it's just really disappointing to see so much censorship around this topic. It's okay to believe this. It's okay to believe that. It's okay to do research. But when it comes to this, they still need a lot of work into figuring out what it is, where it came from, who is patient zero. They're working on vaccines. How do vaccines work? A lot of times you take a small part of the virus and put it in. They have to test it for 2 years. This is not settled science by any means, and nobody serious is saying it is. So the amount of cover up around this topic, that it was created from a lab, is very, very obvious in my perspective when you really start to connect the dots of who's who. I'm not accusing anyone of doing anything, but let's just be honest. There's corruption in politics. That's a fact. Everyone knows it. There's corruption in sports. That's a fact. You could look at FIFA, and there have been Italian football or soccer teams, whatever you want to call them, who have been relegated because they were cheated. They had, I think it was Juventus or one of the top teams, relegated to a lower league for a whole year because they were caught cheating. Sports has cheating in it. Politics has cheating in it. Corporations are corrupt. That's known on the left wing and the right wing. The education system has corruption. That's very, very well known on multiple levels, whether you want to look at the Lori Loughlin scandal or you want to just be a right winger myself. But, they found out that it was HIV positive, something that they had, and then they sold it to South America or brought it to Latin America or whatever. I got to just say it properly so I don't. This is straight out of the CBS News. Bayer sold HIV risky meds. CBS, Bayer admits it paid million in HIV infection cases, just not in English, so they did it in another one. The Guardian, Bayer division knowingly sold HIV infected protein. So this is a reality that this could be done. Now that you know that any industry, and I'm not trying to question the experts or real science, but now that you know that any industry can be corrupt, any industry could be manipulated, any industry could have bad actors at the top of it who are in it for the money or power, that's just a fact. What are they trying to push with this situation? I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I think the science behind real vaccines is very clear. If you give the small amount of the virus to the right person, with the right ingredients, maybe not with mercury, lead, and fetal tissues. I don't understand that element of it, but maybe that needs to be in there. You could look up the ingredients yourself. The science is clear. It's the same reason why you don't want your kid to not play out in the sunshine all day. If you keep your kid from dirt and germs, it's going to be like a walking magnet for sickness because they have no incrementation to the disease. That's how the science works. So that's the science behind vaccine science. You give people a little bit of the virus and they get So the point I'm trying to get to is with this one, I'm not a vaccine denier. I'm skeptical of the ingredients in it. I'm skeptical of the people behind it. And I'm skeptical of the companies who push it and how good their safety tests are and how honest they are with the side effects and such. That's what I'm skeptical about, like millions of people on the planet. It's not anti or pro. It's just the facts of how science literally works. On that note, what are they trying to say? What is Dr. Fauci trying to say? Bill Gates trying to say? Gavin Newsom trying to say? Phil Murphy trying to say? Chris Cuomo trying to say? A lot of these Democrats and some conservatives too. They're trying to say we're never going to go back to normal. That life you used to love with travel and going to sports games and going to the grocery store without a mask, it's never coming back to full normalization until the entire world gets a vaccine. That's not my opinion. That's not my exaggeration. If you want, I could look it up. They're saying we want basically the entire world to get the vaccine. So use your logic, these phony, lame, conservative, phony thought leaders who are misleading people into not using critical thinking. When you have a product, whether it's Coca-Cola, whether it's a vaccine, whether it's a sports ticket, whether it's water, whatever it is, a product that you want to sell to the entire world and use the media. If you look at Facebook, if you look at Google, if you look at a lot of the people who they're connected to, foundations they run, they're all go hand in hand. They all have a stake in this agenda, one way or another, either power-wise or financially. To give a product to the entire world and use the power of their industry to threaten, to censor, to silence, to badmouth, to smear, or to mandate every single person. If you disagree with it, they're going to try to destroy you. They're going to try to censor you. They're going to try to silence you. They have the power on a political scale to say you can't go to a baseball game without a certificate. You can't get on that plane without They want to vaccinate the whole world. It's not an anti-vaccine situation. The right vaccine with the right ingredients will have a good effect, the same effect that it would of incrementally bringing your kid into the real world so they get certain germs so they're not, they get an egg thrown at them and their face blows up because they've never seen a germ before because their parents were coddling them too much. It's that same science behind real vaccines, but the entire industry has merged with big media and big corporations to then say, we are the truth. Everything we do is right. You could look into the Lyme disease vaccine. You could look into the flu vaccine. They don't guess the right strain of flu quite often. The flu has not been eradicated. You could Google 2 years ago, 80,000 people dead in the winter. That's massive numbers. We're experiencing some of the worst flu seasons in modern history, even though we have the vaccine. We've known about the flu for a long time. It's not been eradicated. Quite the opposite. There's really, they could pull together some sort of Fauci model or data chart and claim that it is, but there really is no correlation between the flu vaccine, how long it's been around, how many people get it, versus how less spread the flu has gotten. It's still spreading. And their theory is we need herd immunity. They want every single person to get one, and then it'll disappear is what they say. But that's not true with the flu, obviously, because they don't even guess the right strand of flu. So if you don't even have the right strand to begin with, or the right strain rather, that's affecting the northern hemisphere, which they admit in scientific journals, then who's it going to protect? 60%, 40%, they say? That's not enough for herd immunity. Their science doesn't even add up when they speak about science. You don't need to be a PhD wizard to understand this. Most working people know it's wrong. They listen to me or maybe a Dr. Shiva, and then they can kind of put the puzzle pieces together, just like I do when I watch people that I look up to and be like, wow, okay, they connected that puzzle. I had a feeling about it. I used my common sense and critical thinking, and they just completed the puzzle for me. So this is the thing that people are missing on every front. There is a massive concerted effort to silence, censor, and smear anybody who suggests that this virus wasn't from nature and from bats. But if you look at the Wuhan labs, if you look at all the corruption around it, if you look at the reports now that U.S. officials were warning for years that they were unsafely studying bat coronaviruses, it's in CNN now. It's in Washington Post now. It's mainstream news, what I was talking about a month ago. It probably leaked accidentally from a lab. Even Facebook went so far as to quote Richard Ebright, a very well-known, coronavirus expert from Rutgers University. They quoted him in the fact checker article trying to disprove my video, saying Richard Ebright says this about the virus, so that means that it's false, that it started in a lab. You could go to Richard Ebright's Twitter right now. One of his top posts is Washington Examiner. He thinks it was accidentally leaked from a lab. And as the days go on, more and more evidence comes out. And Richard Ebright, just like me, keeps on sharing it because he's a real scientist, not a phony, low IQ lemming who works for the USA Today, who thinks they have some sort of authoritarian authority over my videos, which are much more accurate, much more sourced, much more intelligent, to be honest. I have 3 sources. I have 20 sources in my video, and my sources actually make sense. They source somebody and the person doesn't even agree with them. It's ridiculous. So overall, these are the questions that these are the things that they're covering up. They don't want people to think it came from a lab. And when it's all said and done, everyone's going to find out it probably did come from a lab. Delete my video, censor my stuff. I don't really care at this point. You guys are deceiving the world, just like the organizations you work with are. Now moving on to if it was man-made or man-altered or not. My video was one of the, if not probably, I'm not even trying to brag, but there's no other video like it besides maybe the Epic Times documentary that came out a week ago. That's phenomenal, I'm sure. And they've probably censored that. But before that, there's no video that goes into detail about how man-altered viruses are real. It is a massive possibility. People should be looking into it. And scientists like Luc, whatever his name is, Montagnier, should be researching it with their tools, because it's very, very likely that that's a possibility. So much so that even liberals used to know it a few years ago, or whoever, the science leaders of, the Bill Gates Foundation. So now it's all coming out, and it never was true what they said. The science was never settled. They never for sure knew it wasn't man-made. They never for sure knew it wasn't from a lab. They just used their little lemmings and their little media censors and gatekeepers to try to demonize anybody who disagrees. And this is historical. You could look up, if you want to go to civil rights, you could look up Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. How come Martin Luther King's everywhere? How come Malcolm X isn't? The more you listen to Malcolm X's speeches, you could say he was a radical. He was talking about some of the wrong people that they didn't want him to talk about. And he was calling out even the big marches that they had and said they were a big spectacle to push a nefarious agenda that was actually counterproductive for Black Americans. So that's why he doesn't get talked about. You can go, further into that stuff and realize that a lot of stuff is like that. So they don't necessarily accurately portray what's going on. If you're a revolutionary, from the Socrates to anybody in history, you look from Jesus Christ to Socrates to Malcolm X to anybody else, they never historically treated the revolutionaries who were ahead of their time properly. They always outcasted them. Back in the day, they used to exile them. They always demonized them. In some cases, they killed them, in many cases. So it's not this proven theory that the popular consent is the consensus of science. That's a made-up lie by the same bureaucrats who probably would have killed Jesus Christ if he were alive, from the same liars that probably wanted to exile Socrates for disagreeing with the scientific consensus. The same people that were shutting up Malcolm X and Martin Luther King when they stepped out of line. These are all the same-minded people. You shut up. I control science. I control this. I control that. You can't disagree with me. There's no historical evidence that that type of attitude is productive, revolutionary, or beneficial to human nature. It just doesn't exist. So I'm tired of people trying to censor me and silence me. I don't really care, to be quite honest, about little people saying stuff. But when Facebook fact checks my video with an article that's sloppy, that won't age well, and you can watch my Are Viruses Man-Made video in 10 years, and it'll still be accurate, as accurate as it is today, because I'm actually accurate. I don't say things that I can't prove. I speculate when I want to speculate. I show sources of why I think that way and why I'm questioning that, and then I weigh out the possibilities. I'm not saying it's 100% man-made and it's 0% in nature. That's phony. There are people who do that in the truther community or whatever. And to me, those people are unimpressive and I don't care about them. That's not me though. I don't do that. That's why my video will age well. So overall, I'm going to answer a few questions. This is what's going on, folks. It's not just a random theory anymore from people who can't prove it. The 2008 Nobel Prize winner of medicine, Luc Montagnier, who discovered HIV, came out on French news, I believe it was French news, and came out on podcasts and in papers, and he's sounding the alarm. He claims SARS-CoV-2 is a manipulated virus that was accidentally released from a laboratory in Wuhan, China. And he says they have used coronaviruses to work to develop an AIDS vaccine, and he believes that they accidentally leaked it. And this is a message to every scientist, to every journalist, to every censor, to every conservative, phony thought leader, liar that couldn't hang with me for 5 minutes, acting like they're some sort of wizards who tell people to shut up. This is what happens when human beings play God. It's the Frankenstein story times 20. You play God, you manipulate viruses, you make your own viruses, you search for vaccines, you work hard, you have a lab in Wuhan that has 1,500 viruses. The United States lifts a moratorium, or however you say it, on a virus ban, so they start studying virus. It's happening all over the place. You're trying to play God, and God has a funny way of slapping you right back in the face. You're not God. These people, these bureaucrats of the health industry that have corrupted health to such an extent and ruined millions of lives, they think that they're the God of this planet. And when they try to study this stuff to help you with their medicines, they release it by mistake. That's just the reality of what happens sometimes. And that's a lesson to humanity. So hopefully we learn and we understand, and people come around and people wake up, because right now, this is a really serious situation. And I also want to say one more thing too. The people, especially the conservatives who are like, don't question that, don't. When it comes to science, you can talk about the deaths, you can talk about the death rate, you can talk about coronavirus. It's terrible. COVID-19, SARS, it's not good. People dying, people getting sick. It's not good. I'm all about saving lives. But this is also what a scientist or, somebody that actually thinks and uses their brain would think. That's all real. That's happening. You could speculate on how many people died from what or what, but I'm not denying that. It's weird to me that what they're denying is our society is very, very thin. It's held together very, 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 very thinly, for lack of a better word. It's very fragile. We just fractured our entire global or national society, both of them. We fractured it, maybe broke it in a way that we've seen. You could talk about the Great Depression. You could talk about 2008. This is nothing like it. We've never had anything like it. This is in many ways worse than that. I mean, that was not good, but this is for sure on its own unique level of fracturing or breaking worldwide society. We have leaders, health leaders, politicians who have no interest in putting it back together. So the science of what happens when you have billions of people on a planet, you fracture or break society, and you're run by psychopaths who don't really have a plan to put it fully back together. And many of them don't want to until they inject everyone with a vaccine, which if it's anything like a flu vaccine, it doesn't eradicate the flu. They've had 20 years, 30 years. How long have they had to develop those? They still can't catch the right strands, because that's what happens in nature. Things mutate, things change. It's not always that easy. So the idea that they're going to be able to eradicate it when it doesn't even exist yet, the cure that they claim they're going to find, they've been looking for a cancer cure for how long? And they say they haven't found one. So there is science to back up what I'm saying too. What if you broke society with people who will never put it back? That could ruin billions of lives. So they don't want to compare it to alcohol. I get it. It's not a pathogenic disease. It's not one that's highly contagious, but it does kill 3 million people a year. You don't stop the sales of that. There is a comparison. These loser conservatives are like, Dr. Phil shouldn't say that. Oz shouldn't say that. I get they're a little loose with what they say, but you should be allowed to say what you say. They should be allowed to say what they say, because what they're saying is accurate. It doesn't have to be a highly contagious disease. Highly contagious disease kill millions of people every year. Non-highly contagious disease are easier to stop the deaths. You could just ban them. But this isn't about that. And the science behind what happens if you break and fracture a society, this could destroy, I'm not trying to fearmonger, but it could potentially destroy. This is an open-ended scientific experiment. It could destroy billions of people. And if that's the case, you would have wished it was just what it was a couple months ago, and just that. So there is no science or data to back up these goofy claims of gatekeeping that they're doing. This is a massive, massive deal, not just on an economic scale. I'm talking about society, broken and fractured, with leaders who either don't know how or don't want to or have incentive to do something else. rather than put it back together properly with all the data and science we have. There is no consensus, and we're mostly led by total liars. So I get the gatekeeping and media censorship from the right, but from the left, but from the right, it's just goofy. But we've known this anyway. It's two sides of the same coin mostly. I'm going to search one more time and then I'm going to take questions. I just want to see if people are actually covering this. Oh, nice. Jewish Voice covered it. Shout out Jewish Voice. You guys are crushing. Jewish Voice reported on it 12 minutes ago. Nobel Prize winning medicine Luc Montagnier says COVID was manipulated. Asia Times. I'm hoping more people start getting on this. Let's see. RFI. It's mostly in foreign news right now, but all right. We'll see if it hits the mainstream. Probably they'll probably censor it. Shout out Jewish Voice. A lot of people are like, "Anomaly, you criticize Israel too much." You know what? I'm going to compliment the Jewish Voice. Congrats, you noble, virtuous Jewish writers who published this. I appreciate you guys being at the forefront. There you go. There's a big compliment. And happy Passover to everybody. Hope you had a good Passover. God bless. All right, let's see what we're talking about. I guess I got to take up YouTube too. How we doing on YouTube? What's up, my friends? Thank you. Someone said if there was a simple found, they would. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely agendas and everything, but this idea that they control the science. If you're a scientist and you disagree with them and you show proof, they try everything they can to not let you through. But it's okay. People are not buying it anymore. And this is big. This is not me saying it. This is not, I know Alex Jones has been saying it for a month. People are bringing that up, that there could be HIV elements to this virus. He's been saying it. But when the guy who actually discovered HIV says that there's HIV elements in it and he has a Nobel Prize, not that it should matter. You can get a Nobel Prize like Paul Krugman, economist. He got a Nobel Prize and he said the internet will be no greater than the fax machine. He thought the internet wasn't going to be an important invention. I knew when I was 8 years old, the internet was going to change the world. He has a Nobel Prize. He has no insight. That's okay. Barack Obama has a Nobel Peace Prize, and he bombed the crap out of 7 countries, bombed Libya and Syria back to the Stone Age. And, it resulted in power vacuums, slavery, and a terrorist takeover in many regions. And he got a Nobel Peace Prize. So who really cares? But for the mainstream, that gives it more credibility. Someone says some good thoughts here. Thank you. It's all love. We're leading with love. We're leading with light, and people will do what they want to do. But the indoctrination, I don't know why people feel so comfortable just getting people telling them how to think. Like that's not how science works. Like this is what one person said, and we're going to destroy anybody who says otherwise. And that's the truth. It's not how it works. My brother said, let me see. He said, Venice Beach Sub Club, the wicked have tried to live forever at any cost because they know what awaits them when they die. Man, that's deep, Seth. I appreciate the super chat, and I appreciate that message. Very, very deep. Obviously this is a not good situation we're going on, but it's a little exciting when you make a video, they try to censor it, and it's going to turn out right anyway. Even if it wasn't man-made, the video still makes sense. Are they man-made? Is it a possibility? The video is going to age well, regardless of what happens, because I do my work. I'm who Washington Post and New York Times thinks they are. They know they're not that, but there's very few objective people. Even if I have a goal, say my goal was I want it to be man-made, that doesn't mean I can just say it is if I don't know it is. You still have to be honest if you don't know until you have full proof. Then you could say that. That's how I do my work. The Washington Post and New York Times are so sloppy. They say one anonymous intelligence official says this, and then they all report on it off of an anonymous source of an anonymous source. It's like a telephone. It's like Billy said that Susie, slapped Johnny in 2004. They'll report on it like it's gospel. And then the same thing happens to Joe Biden with more evidence, and they cover it up. The media is a PR team. Facebook, World Health Organization, Democrats, many Republicans, it's all one big club, as George Carlin said, and you ain't in it. And clearly neither am I. Let's see. Someone said, what's the guy's name? His name is Luc Montagnier. So it's spelled Luc and then Montagnier. Montagnier. Luc Montagnier. So it's in the title as well. It's starting to get out now. I saw it thanks to my brother Luke from We Are Change. He posted about it. I'm just so interested to see who actually covers this. Someone said I have a feeling. Yeah, the media tries. They don't really say much about me though, because there's not really. I mean, all they could do is cover my video up with their video, and then my video actually makes sense, and theirs doesn't. So they could try. I'm sure they're gonna do something crazy one time, but whatever. Someone said Al Gore won a Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, I mean, he also had some really way off predictions about the ice cores as well, but it's more like you start to learn it's one big club and you're not in it. Like how do you get that? Do you even want it? I had a good talk with Dr. Shiva yesterday. We were talking about historical figures. Not every historical figure is who they said they were. From Gandhi to Martin Luther King, even to Rosa Parks. You could look into the history of Rosa Parks. There's a lot of people who say, I wasn't alive at the time, but there's people who say that was a staged event, that they used her because she was a, better looking woman than the person who actually was on the bus at the time. So you got to understand how easy it was for them to stage things back in the day. There was no internet. There were no cell phones. There was no live streaming. There was no independent press. It was only whatever they said. The picture they took, you could take a picture and that's what it is. Nobody could really question that. So, I'm not saying that's true or not, but I wasn't alive then. I see how they portray what's going on now. I got, 400 million views. I've done all this stuff. I'm never going to have an article written about the stuff I've done. They're only going to cover me when they lie about me. So if that's the only thing that turns up in history, people are, oh, conspiracy theorists are not. No, watch my videos. Listen to my speeches. Don't listen to what they say about Malcolm X. Listen to Malcolm X. Don't listen to what they say about Martin Luther King. Try to find, not just the speeches, but like what he really talked about, other things. Goes with everybody. Try to go to the core. Some of the people who are demonized the most by the press in history have always been the most interesting or the most accurate. And Martin Luther King, for as much as they claim like they loved him, you can Google Martin Luther King FBI letter, and there was a letter from the FBI, allegedly, it's in Vox, it's all over the place, and mainstream news, basically threatening him, being like, bro, kill yourself, telling him to commit suicide because they were pissed at him. FBI letter, Martin Luther King Jr., look it up. So, these same, oh, how dare you not trust the intel communities? Well, you love Martin Luther King. You trust them no matter what. They told him to kill himself. So you either got to not like Martin Luther King or have a slight distrust or a speculation of the agencies at some point, or you're just a complete moron. It's up to people. They're like, I trust whenever Mrs. Jones says in 7th grade history class, and anybody who disagrees is a conspiracy theorist. And I'm going to work for New York Times and USA Today, and I'm going to get rid of those conspiracy theorists. Your legacy is a liar. Your legacy is a censor. You are the establishment. You are the suppressor. You are the oppressor. That's your legacy. That's your life. That's why you can't sleep at night. That's why you have 17 cats, keep blogging on Twitter, but you're never really happy. The alcohol's not going to do it. There's not enough wine glasses in your cabinet to make you happy because you're not living a fulfilling life because you're suppressing the truth and working for the world's worst people. You are part of the world's worst PR team in modern history. It's never going to be fulfilling. There's not enough drugs, alcohol, and guys or women out there. It's never going to be complete. All right, let's see what we got. Someone said, my daughter's teacher censored her schoolwork because, let me read that. Let me see that. Let me scroll up. Thanks for being here, Jessica. I appreciate you. She said, my daughter's teacher censored her schoolwork because she said the virus was the Chinese virus. Yeah, this is like social justice gone astray. I mean, they make the rules. The rules don't really matter. Were they concerned with Africans when they named the last 3 viruses off of Africa or Middle East or Nile? Or they don't care. I mean, it's ridiculous. But they make up the rules. When they do it, it's okay. When you do it, it's wrong. When they say Chinese virus, it's racist. When or when you say it, when they said it a month ago, it was just reporting. When there's an accuser of Brett Kavanaugh from 50 years ago whose story doesn't even correlate with their own friends, that's believable and it's in 500 newspapers. When, someone accuses Joe Biden, they're not going to cover it. Or the same writer that was saying believe all women 2 months ago is now just saying, she's just a political operative. She's just trying to bring him down. Well, do you think that could possibly happen the other way? I'm willing to say that could be true. But do you think that could be possible, that there would be people that would try to stop a Supreme Court justice out of strictly politics? These people are such liars. I don't understand how they live with themselves. Like, you can't be that. Maybe they lack self-awareness completely, but I don't think so. I think a lot of these people know exactly what they're doing, and it's a very unfulfilling life. It's very creepy. All right, let me see. What we got? We'll answer a few more and then we'll take off. Someone said, I like your passion anomaly. Thank you, Javier. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. God bless you guys. Someone said, I get so mad with my kids coming home talking about the propaganda they learned at school. Yeah, it's bad. I think this is really the agenda that a lot of people have said. They took, and I'm not a big person for like, people need religion, but they took faith out of the school. And if they took it out and just replaced it with something better, I'd be fine with it. But they took faith out of schools, public schools, and then they put in politics and, big government into the schools. And now it's a big government institution. It's like a brainwashing unit. They even got me with a lot of stuff, even though I was super creative, super outside the box, super rebellious. I couldn't have been more rebellious when I was younger. I still fell for their propaganda because it's layered by like the thousands. So it's gotten worse and worse and worse. It's not great, but whatever. Homeschooling's an option, or I think this was the big thing that a lot of people talk about too. And this stuff sounds so crazy to people who don't think on a big scale. Winners think big. Corporations think big. Politicians think big. They're 20 steps ahead of you. You think this isn't real? Psychologists from 1950s have published papers that would blow your mind. People have been smart for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. So this idea, we've been so dumbed down as a society. You say something like this and people say, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. No, your last stage dumbed down, last stage weakling, Western civilian weakling, you're the final stage of idiocracy. This was known in the 1930s and 20s and 40s and 50s, this type of psychological manipulation. So you think it's not even possible because you've been so dumbed down and soyed out, but this is all real. So the people who think big, they don't think small like you. They don't believe in conspiracy theory silencing. Like, they just tell you that because people are dumb enough to believe it. But on a whole, people have 100-year plans. People have plans of how do we, get a society to listen to us. Well, if they believe in religion, you could brainwash them through religion. Many people have been massively brainwashed through their faith leaders, in every religion. You get a phony leader who spits politics or, does something nefarious, you could brainwash people through religion. You take religion out, then what do people have? What's their set of morals? You teach them their morals. You take faith out of the schools, you replace it with government. You could separate the parents because, the parents might teach their kids, right? Send the mom to work, or send the dad to work, or, put policies and media and culture that gets away from the traditional religions and morals of actually staying with someone and having a family. Then you could separate the mom from the dad. Then the kids have to go to school because the mom can't stay home. She can't cook. She can't teach the kids. This has all been planned out. You could think it's a crazy theory, but that's because you're not very bright. You're so low level, final stage 2021. We're supposed to have trips to Mars and, hoverboards and all this sort of exploration. And it's been 50 years of idiocracy that people in 1940s, scientists and psychologists in 1940s would laugh hysterically in your face if you thought that was not possible and no one's doing that. It's absolutely something that they do. You could listen to Yuri Bezmenov, who was a KGB agent, who defected to the United States and then spilled the beans on what they were doing. They were doing this type of psychological manipulation for decades now. They're not doing spy novels, James Bond. That's the brainwashing. They're doing covert psychological manipulation. and it's obvious which direction they went in. It's the exact opposite of what the media says. It's the exact opposite of what CNN says and Democrat politicians said. How do you make a society weak? Do you want a strong military like President Trump has? No, that's not good for the enemy. You want a weak military. You want a bunch of weakling soy boys who are like, frail. Their arms are this thin. They can't take a picture without opening their mouth. They're complete degenerate cucks, and they can't think for themselves. They can't do anything. They can't provide for themselves. They're completely useless in any sort of physical or mental aspect, and they vote for people who, destabilize and demoralize their own nation. That's what they want. They don't want people who actually love themselves, love their countries. They want people who hate themselves, hate their countries, can't do anything, physical or mental, have no critical thinking, and vote for people who, take away more of their rights, who want to take away their First Amendment, their Second Amendment, their medical freedom, their ability to opt out of something that the government doesn't want you to do. They turn people into leftists. You could say CNN will lie to you all day. That's what they wanted to do. It's on record. That was their whole plan. They didn't want people who loved this country and who actually believed in borders and like strong law enforcement. Oh yeah, that's really good for Russia. Strong law enforcement and strong military. No, they want weakling, loser people who can't take a selfie without their mouth. I don't know how to pose because I hate myself and I do too many drugs and I believed everything I heard in rap music. That's what they want. They want you to hate yourself and be weak men, women who don't like men, feminist movement, separate the man from the woman, separate the father from the mother, send the mother to work, send the father towards 20 different women. It's all planned in music, in film, in television, in culture. Our culture is like end stage, final stage, demoralization, destabilization. I mean, look at it. Where do you go from one of the leading politicians in the country saying that transgender women should play in sports with women? I have no problem with people who want to change their gender. If you're of age, do what you want to do. I don't know who you are. I don't know who your mind and your soul is. I say go at it. I've never been hateful of people who change their gender. It's not up to me. I don't care, really. Unless you're reading to children and stripping, yeah, now you're kind of a pedophile. Unless you're trying to play sports with biologically born women and you're beating the crap out of them. Guys, this is not hard stuff. I mean, you think you're smart in 2020 because you have a degree from Harvard? This is the dumbest generation on the planet. Where do you go from here? No borders, no laws, no genders. Guys, this is final stage demoralization and destabilization. I mean, how do you not know this? Look at me. I have long hair. I look like a hippie loser. People are like, anomaly. I've never met a hippie that wasn't retarded. I'm not really, I mean, it's a joke. I don't know if I'm going to get censored for being funny, but overall, it's like, I'm not like a mechanic, I'm on a big scale. I'm pretty useless. I mean, I'm good at stuff. I'm like physically fit and stuff, but I'm joking and being self-deprecating because I'm not sitting here like I'm a lumberjack that's 500 pounds that like, camps in the Amazon 20 weeks a year. I shouldn't be like the leading voice. This is pathetic. And I'm not saying I'm pathetic, but it's like, guys, this is like the average mean of what a guy is now is pathetic. It's embarrassing. Like literally, it's like the lowest form of low. It's like ridiculous. Point I'm trying to make is I'm not coming from this far right angle of like everybody has to do what I say and think how I think. Do whatever you want. Just don't be this pathetic and weak and self-hating and useless. It's ridiculous. Do I think more people are getting it? Absolutely, absolutely. And I think I had a good talk with Shiva yesterday about the not so obvious establishment, and I think that's really how people have to think. You don't have to go at certain people, but the not so obvious establishment, as Shiva calls it, some people call it controlled opposition, are people who feed you half truths and then lead you down the path of lies. It gets confusing trying to figure it out. Who's that? Who's that? Don't drive yourself crazy accusing everyone of being agents and stuff. That's weird. Some people do that. It's like, dude, get over yourself. But overall, some people are not so obvious establishment, either purposely or many, many times by mistake. People don't know what they're doing. So the point I'm getting to is we're splintered in so many different ways. You have left to right, splintered in half. Left wing, progressive, and Democrats, splintered in half, no offense, pretty much all useless. Right wing, You have the conservatives who follow Turning Point USA and Ben Shapiro and stuff. They have a big following. Okay, they do some stuff they're weak on, whatever. Then you have people who follow QAnon and stuff, and they're, deep diving on stuff, but they don't want to hear about anything. Government, we got that. And then you have the people who are like middle of the road. And then you have the America First people who are really trying to hold it down for the America. H-1B visas, they criticize foreign countries. Point I'm getting to is I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but we're splintered in a million different ways. So I think the best thing you can do, no matter which group you gravitate towards, be a critical thinker and be ready to go when it's time to go. Even if you're a liberal, hippie, Elizabeth Warren voter, when that time comes and they say you can't go to the grocery store or on a plane without a vaccine certificate, let's hope that pushes you to the right side of history. There's going to be an event that puts people in the same groups. So I think we're massively splintered now, and that's okay. There's always going to be groups and sports teams and hobbies and stuff. Splintering is fine. Individuals, hover towards people like them. But self-awareness, self-accountability is big. So when that time comes, and I believe that time is now, people are not only on the right side of history, but ready to stand their ground in some way. When the governor of Michigan says you can't buy seeds, and enough people say, you know what, I don't think that's right, they'll stop doing it. So, I think this is really past the point. It's all good. I think it's going to be okay. I think we'll be fine. I'm optimistic, but that's all we can really do. There's a video that you watched and I watched that made me realize that something I used to believe needed to be questioned. And then you go on the path. Hopefully you don't go full crazy, but you learn more and you become wiser and smarter, hopefully. And then you're in a part where you're like, okay, I can entertain that idea, but this is, how I feel at the moment. We're at a crossroads right now. And I think when you take away all the groups and all the splintering and all these, media brainwashing from one way or the other, people are people. Everybody wants to live, eat, be healthy. They don't want to be led by, people who don't have their best interests at heart. So I think the further they go, the more backlash there's going to be. And that's already here. I think Donald Trump was the first stage of that. He's already done a lot with questioning things. And he's kind of standing in the way. They hate Donald Trump. Donald Trump's their best friend. Without Donald Trump, people would have been pissed years ago. So, we'll see how it goes. There's always power shifts and stuff, but I'm very optimistic. I'm not worried about it. And, the world always has a way of working itself out. We've come too far. We're at a point now, though. This is the message I'm really trying to get out. People really need to think about stuff I said today, because I see certain people I follow on Twitter, certain conservatives, America First conservatives, so they claim to be, they're telling people not to question anything. They're shaming people who are questioning things. They're saying, no, dude, guys, society has been splintered or fractured. Whether you think it was an overreaction or an underreaction, that's not what I'm talking about. Let's triple task. Society is fractured. It's going to take some real leadership or, some real revolution to keep it going in the right direction. Whether that comes from the Trump administration, whether that comes from, the reports that they're working on, whether it has to come from the people directly, or we already played our part. I can't predict the future, but just be on your toes, keep an eye out. And I mean, things couldn't get realer. The quarantine, the lockdowns, things are realer than real. They're realer than every conspiracy theory that David Icke, Alex Jones, Robert Anton Wilson, and Bill Cooper told people combined. It's all here in a different form. So we're in it's exciting, it's disappointing in many ways, but we're in, what's realer than this? Welcome to the best show on earth. Let's see what happens. All right, let's see what you're talking about. Someone said, hello, Alpha Man. Let's not get carried away, but as Jesse Lee Peterson says, I try not to be a beta. That's what Jesse says. I'm a little too much 21st century though, I mean, I can farm, I play basketball, I'm strong, I'm fast. Like I could do physical things, but like I'm also just like, I come from the 21st century. Like, why don't we just calm down and play a video game? Let's just relax here, order Uber Eats, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. I'm a little too much 21st century. I sold out. I was like, man, I could hunt for my own food, but it could get here in 35 minutes on an application. I don't know. To me, that sounds like a blessing. But here we are. Someone said this battles would go back a long time. Stay vigilant. Thank you, Ryan. Hey, life is okay. I'm all right. I mean, hopefully you guys are okay. But I'm not. Don't fear doesn't work. And it's interesting because I've been reading the Bible a little bit. I went to Revelations because I wanted to see what was in it for myself. Today I read all of Revelations, and it's interesting because so many things that it says in Revelations are things that Christians today don't do. And I'm not trying to act like I'm perfect. Trust me. I'm looking at certain things. I'm like, we got to stop our ways here, folks. But overall, it says don't be a coward. In a certain paragraph of Revelations, they put being a coward in the same category as a murderer and a fornicator. So for people having sex, I'm like, I've been good recently, but I'm like, whoa, okay, well, virgins out here is tough to come by. But anyway, they put coward in the same place as a murderer. So if a lot of people are like, how do you do what you do? But it's to me, it's scary to not do anything. I don't know. Like, I'm not even doing that much. Like, we're in our house. It doesn't matter what you did or didn't do. We're all getting on lockdown. And, according to the word, being a coward is not the way to go. That's if everybody was, a little bit stronger. You don't have to be freaking like, insert strong person here. But, don't think it's normal to be like, this is okay. You guys get it. Someone said religion is another trap. Everything's what you make of it. If you want religion to be a trap, it'll be a trap. If you want it to be an inspiration, it'll be an inspiration. If you want it to be a burden, it'll be a burden. It depends who you are, I think. So to some people, you can get trapped by religion. You could get trapped by a religious leader who leads you in the wrong direction. You could get trapped. To me, one of the things that led me to start reading and researching and really speculate on religion, I grew up Catholic, but I was one of the biggest rebels early on. I said, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. I read Richard Dawkins and I started telling everybody. My grandma's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't believe it. It sounds fake to me. I was that person. But I learned Taoism, Buddhism, not the whole thing. I wasn't like the total thing, but I learned the mindset of that. And I was like, wow, that's revolutionary. That changed my life. But then 2016 came around and you start to notice that, it seems like the people who were liberal and atheist didn't age well. It's like milk, you could drink it for 2 weeks, but after 2 weeks, it doesn't age well. Cheese, if it's real, it's not going to last very long. So atheism, in my opinion, and liberalism have aged horribly, and Christianity has aged phenomenally. I'll even give it up to strict Islam or Judaism, whatever one. It seems like these type of people, it's the really religious Jews that are, resisting vaccines. I'm not saying you have to resist it, but they want medical freedom is the point I'm trying to get to. And I believe in medical freedom. It's the Muslims who don't let degeneracy and filth into their countries to a more extent than Christians do. It's the Christians in America who seem to really be standing up for the right things right now: freedom, life, prosperity. And it seems to be this is not to generalize, but the liberal atheists have aged horribly. I used to think the same thing, that religion was a trap, but nothing's a bigger trap than being like a vapid, empty, believer of lies. They replaced religion with phony science. So now people look up to the stars, and I like stars, don't get me wrong. Astronomy is awesome. But the Neil deGrasse Tysons, the Bill Nyes, the science manipulation, the social justice manipulation, the atheist liberal, combination of like the pseudo intellectuals like Sam Harris, who are like, I'm really smart because my mom wrote for Golden Girls or whatever. It's like, yeah, bro, you're the best, whatever. But these people are fake intellectuals. They're not, they don't even have a good moral compass. I don't think you need religion necessarily to have one, but I'm looking around and it seems to be a lot of Christians stepping up and a lot of atheists and liberals that are aging horribly because they grasped onto too many lies. So that has led me to, be more religious, to be honest, and be more connected to those type of people. But, that's my take. I read Revelations this morning because I wanted to see what it was. I had to look up the mark of the beast. I had to see for myself. It's in every hotel, but no one ever reads it. So you could read it, you could think about it. If you let it corrupt you, it'll corrupt you. If you're not right in the head, there's not a religion on the planet that's going to help you. So it's all internal. Bang. God bless. Thank you, Theron. Those are them vibes we need right now. God bless. Amen. Can I get an amen? Someone said have a relationship instead of religion. Everyone's got their own thing. Listen, everyone's doing the best that they can. Oh, it's about the relationship with someone said the Catholic thing hit home for me. Thank you, brother. But that's how it was. I was the first atheist. I was telling people souls don't exist, this and that. There's no science behind it. But I look back at that person that I wasn't happy. I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't honest. I was rebellious. I was smart, but I was just shooting my energy all over the place. And the truth was I was overcompensating, for things that I wasn't complete. But I was also like 12. So how complete could you be at 12? I was a moron. But I was pretty funny though. I was a funny 12-year-old. Do you think the mark is going to be the vaccine? I mean, here's an interesting thing that I heard recently that I kind of want to pass along to you. I read the Revelations today, so I know what you're talking about, but someone said, there's always the pastors who pretend like they're the prophets. And it's actually in Revelations, to be honest. It says the Bible ends with I don't want to misquote it, but basically he says, there is no other prophecy than this prophecy. If anybody tells you wrong, he says that God's going to curse them. That's in the Bible. So who are all these preachers and pastors? I understand trying to predict, but like these pastors and preachers who say it's going to happen in 1975, they were wrong. The ones who said it's going to happen in 1980, they were wrong. The ones who tell you for sure it's going to happen now, I'm getting a message from God. It's in the Bible that you're not supposed to override the prophecy. So is it going to be the vaccine? Is it going to be a microchip from Apple? I don't know. And I think the Christians who say that they know for sure are lying. And it's interesting because people made that connection to QAnon, where I've always said, I think dot connecting is good. I think researching is good. I think being awake is good. I think getting to the core of issues people aren't getting to, I think that's all great. But the false idol stuff is weird. And also the correlation between that community and people who decipher those codes and then constantly become false prophets because they're picking dates, times, people, ideas, when the message itself, although it's not a religion, he tells you even in those messages, don't do that. Stop making false predictions. These people keep making false predictions. It's the same thing. And then people treat it like a religion and then attack you as if you don't believe in Jesus Christ because you don't like that. It's the same with the Bible. I believe that there's the pastors that keep predicting falsely, keep lying, and then saying you don't believe them. It's in the text not to do that. So, I mean, you could make your own prediction and I could, but I think the best we can do is speculate, and that's okay. But when you speculate, I think it makes sense to be like, this is kind of what I think. I don't know, though, rather than like, this is going to happen on Easter Sunday because the 7 days of darkness. And, the pastors who said, I heard a message from the Lord that on 1985, those pastors have been wrong thousands of times because they're doing too much. But that's my thought. What if it was going to happen and the plan diverted? Hey, I'm not qualified. There's plans all over the place. I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is what's going on now. Patricia, super chat. Thank you. Patricia said, I believe those that believe in Jesus will not be here for the mark. I hope I'm right. God bless you and God bless America. Yeah, it's all speculation, Patricia. I feel you. But overall, I would say don't worry about it. The best reason not to worry about it, one, if you have complete unwavering faith, then that's it. You're 100% set. If not, it's either going to happen or it's not going to happen. So even if you don't have complete unwavering faith, if it doesn't happen, we just wasted all that time worrying about it. If it does happen, we still wasted time worrying about it. If something that's so big that we can't control is going to happen, it's going to happen. You should enjoy the last days of your life. And I'm not saying these are the last days, but that's to me the part that never makes sense. People are like, well, what if it happens? Then it happens. Then hopefully I enjoyed the last week and ordered enough food to, eat good. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not sounding the alarm, but it's like there's no benefit to fearing what's coming because it's either not going to come It's either going to come and you could do something about it and you should do something about it, or it's, going to come and you can't do something about it. And it is what it is. Like, oh my God. That's why they get people with this phony science. That's, oh my God, there's an asteroid going to hit. They got people looking at the sky, which is good. But people are like, Neptune is going to do this in 3054. They got a bunch of useful idiots. Pluto's not a planet. Now Pluto's a planet. People can't even decode the world that they live in, but they're researching, planets miles away, which is a fun hobby. But the more I look into that stuff, I'm like, I don't know about all that, Chief, but that's another topic. Someone say God's plan diverted, question mark. I don't know that she was talking about that. I mean, I have no idea what you guys are talking about in the comments. There's like 4,000 comments, but plan A to plan B. I don't know if you're talking about whose plan. All right, let's see. Someone said you could destroy any virus with resonant frequencies. Here's the thing. I'm not selling snake oil or this type of stuff, but it is settled science about how you eat, how much you exercise, how strong your mind is, how much sun you get, how much interaction you get. This is all settled science that has an impact on your body and the way you're able to fight diseases. It's all real. So it's like the fact that the Faucis and the Gates and, they never talk about that type of stuff very often. They're selling you a very narrow idea of what science is. And it all ends with them wanting everyone to get a vaccine. And they don't even have the vaccine created. It's a provable lie that are they 100% sure that they're going to give a vaccine to every person on the planet and coronavirus is going to disappear and everyone's going to be healthier and better for it? That's 100% factually a lie because they don't even have a vaccine developed yet. They say 2 years minimum, a year minimum. That doesn't mean it's going to work. Even if it works and they release it to the wild, the flu vaccine's been out for a decade and it hasn't eradicated the flu. So that's real science, what I just told you. Could they do it? Possibly. Could it help? For sure. I'm not ruling that out. But this idea that they're settled scientists, if you believe that, you have like the Lindsey Grahams and these other Republicans and conservative thought leaders who are like, I really trust Bill Gates. If he was the leader of the World Health Organization, I'd trust it. It's like, bro, what are you talking about? It's not about leadership. Tedros, I could care less about Tedros. He's not the problem. He's just the head of the problem. You put Bill Gates there, they're going to do the same stuff. Bill Gates probably has more influence than Tedros has. Tedros probably wouldn't even be there if Bill Gates didn't want him there. I don't know that for a fact, but this idea that they're like, oh man, we got to get new leadership. He needs to. That's all useless, but it is what it is. Dun, dun, dun. All right. We'll answer one or two more questions and I'm going to roll out. I feel good about this live stream. I'll probably leave it up for a while. And I'm sure they're going to like hover over it to try to see what they could censor. But what is there really to say? Actually, let's Google real quick before we answer some questions. I want to see who else is covering this. Jewish Voice covered it. Congratulations. You guys are awesome. Euro News. There's a lot of European news, but they don't want to cover it in the U.S. Who would have thought? Asia Times, Gilmore Health News, RFI, Le Huffington Post. That's so funny. That's what it's called. Le Huff Post. In French. ABC.es. So ABC in Europe. Let's see who else. Yeah, they're probably going to try to cover this up. I hope Dr. Oz or Dr. Was it Phil? I hope they say it. People are getting so mad at Dr. Phil. I watched the video. He probably should have been a little more precise with his stats, but overall, I hear what he's saying. And then like you got Republicans like, shut up, Dr. Phil. I'm like, dude, I'm not saying he's a scientist, but he's somewhat of a doctor. I don't think he's the most credible doctor, but I get what he's saying. Like, stop trying to silence him. He's trying to say we got to open up for shop at a certain point. And you got to understand these pseudo-intellectual Republicans, they don't want to open shop even when they can open shop. They want everybody to have certificates for testing and vaccines. It's not a theory. I mean, here, I got to play this again because I say this stuff and the censors on Facebook are like, should we cut the cord? Should we put a little ad there? Should we hover? This is not my opinion. All right. Listen, this is in his own words. Listen.
It is fair to say things won't go back to truly normal until we have a vaccine that we've gotten out to basically the entire world. And so, the best people at the foundation.
Things won't go back to normal until we get a vaccine out to basically the entire world. You have to understand, he's funding the vaccine factories. He's funding the chloroquine research into if chloroquine works using vitamin C as a placebo pill, which doesn't make sense. He's funding the institute at Washington that the models that Dr. Birx used. He's behind it all. The cure, that cure. He has financial and political interest in doing that. And I don't buy this idea if he has so much money that he wouldn't do that. Bill Gates is not a scientist. He might do a lot of stuff in health, but any scientist from a low-level preschooler to the highest level PhD graduate knows that it's not 100% sure that these vaccines are going to work. They don't have a Lyme disease vaccine. They had to discontinue it. The flu vaccine doesn't get rid of flu. It doesn't even predict. They meet 2 times a year at the World Health Organization to pick the strain, and they're constantly wrong. So this idea that we can't go back to normal until he gets a vaccine to the whole world, how dumb do you have to be to not realize that he wants that to happen for his own reasons? He doesn't say, we're going to try to get a vaccine out to the whole world as soon as possible because we want to help people. But I understand that that's going to take a while and it might not work. They'll shut everything down. They don't care if it's 2 years. It's ridiculous. And that guy's even saying a lot of what they did is going to fall apart. This is not me saying. This is the HIV scientist, the guy who won the 2008 Nobel Prize. I'm going to read what he said about it. He said, nature does not accept any molecular tinkering. It will eliminate these unnatural changes. Even if nothing is done, things will get better. So he's trying to say it's going to naturally disassemble because it's a man-altered thing in the first place. And that's what nature does. I don't know that. I'm not a molecular biologist, inventor, scientist, wizard like this guy who's got, maybe he's not an inventor, but he's got a Nobel Prize. He discovered HIV according to these reports. So I can't prove that, but he certainly can. And that's what he's saying. Is he going to be on CNN? No, they're going to try to discredit this guy like the Asia Times. Everybody, even shout out Jewish Voice, you guys are crushing. Everybody's saying Nobel Prize winner discovers HIV discoverer says it's a man-altered virus. They're all reporting it accurately except for Asia Times. Asia Times says French professor sparks furor. I haven't heard the word furor since people talk about Hitler. French professor, I know that's not necessarily what it means. It's but you get what I'm saying. It's it's a strong word. French professor sparks furor with lab leak theory. So now he's not a Nobel Prize winner. Now he's not, the discoverer of HIV. He's just a French professor. He's just any French professor sparking furor with his lab leak theory. These are the games they play, guys. If you're their guy, you're the biggest wizard expert in the world. If you threaten their agenda, you're just a professor who's sparking fury with a lab leak theory. Asia Times doesn't want you to know it was leaked from a lab. Neither does CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, MSNBC. I would be surprised if Fox even reports it, but they're probably most likely. I think maybe Breitbart or Zero Hedge will report it. Not many people will, though. Someone said, furor, why are people angry about an opinion of someone's? Of course, but even this, it's more than just an opinion. He claims that he has scientific research to back it up. He discovered HIV, and he had his team in a lab look at the RNA of this virus or disease. So he has more than just an opinion. He has scientific evidence to back it up, and they still write it off. They're still upset. These are sick people, guys. I don't who watches my video and gets upset. Anomaly needs to. You're not a scientist at that point. I talked to Dr. Shiva. He's got 4 PhDs, invented things. He's not mad at my questions. You're equating education and science with indoctrination and ego. Even some of Einstein's theories, many of them are not proven. Einstein didn't say, don't question me, how dare you? He said, this is my theory, try to disprove it. And people have. Some people think they're successful, many have not been. That's science, that's theories, that's how the whole industry works. It's This is what I said. No, it's always been people are working to disprove it. Same with, the law of gravity and such. People try to disprove it. It's not set in stone. Things get set in stone when no one can disprove it for hundreds of years. And then people decide that's pretty much how it works. But there's always going to be a person in many ways that comes and just changes everything. It's always happened. They said forever, and I knew this was a lie, but they're talking about on other planets that there's no life because they're looking for life just like ours. And then on planet Earth, they find this little bacteria or whatever it was that fed off of arsenic. I got to look at it. So here, let me just. Yeah, they found life that thrives off of arsenic, a bacteria that thrives off of arsenic. So when you're looking for life in other places, you're looking for life as you understand it in your education. Life needs water, life needs this, life needs that. There's certain elements that they say that life needs or certain properties, but they're looking at life through the lens that they've been taught. Once they discover something that's alive that doesn't need those same properties, it changes the whole science around it. It's the same as trying to understand human history, and then you find a new bone in Morocco that predates it 10 million years or something. It changes your understanding of it. So that's the fundamentals of science. For HIV, for cancer, did they have a vaccine in a year and cancer and HIV are gone? Is the flu gone? Is the common cold gone? Not every disease has been eliminated via vaccine. So it's fake science to say everybody in the world's going to get the vaccines that I funded, and then we're going to go back to normal. He's not the president. He's not the leader of the world. He thinks he is, and so do they have a God complex. But that's why what this professor is saying, who is also a Nobel Prize winner, they were trying to do something virtuous, and they played God with a virus, and he thinks they accidentally leaked it, because that's what happens when you think you're God. The world has a funny way of telling you you're not on all levels. So someone said, I'm a conservative and I donated to a Democrat. Dun, dun, dun. I don't know what that means. That's which Democrat? Thank you, Tammy. I appreciate it. God bless you. Thank you so much. Do these bacteria have arsenic substituted DNA? I'll look it up for you if you're interested here. We could have fun. I mean, these are just this is from 2010 actually. It's ABC News, NASA, life in space, not quite, but life that thrives off of arsenic. So I mean,
when we first
okay, I gotta mute that. Scientists working under a grant from NASA's Astrobiology Institute report they have found bacteria in Mono Lake, California, not in space, that could be made to live off arsenic. The organism is called GFAJ1. The finding is important because it expands the prevailing view of what it takes for living things to survive. So I don't know what ended up happening with that research, but that's the article. It's an ABC article saying NASA found arsenic in a California lake that thrives off of it, or I'm sorry, bacteria of some sorts. So someone said, what do you think about China testing bombs? You got to look into that report, because I read it and they were like, China's testing bombs. But then they said that they've been doing it for a year or something. I mean, I don't know who in the United States thinks they're going to stop people from doing bombs. They're like, Iran can't test bombs. North Korea shouldn't test bombs. People are going to test bombs. And I think, there's proof that everybody's kind of bracing for something. I mean, why would you not, let's get outside of our theories. Why would you not brace for something right now, regardless of what like pseudo-intellectual right-wingers or phony Democrat media and Republican media, regardless of what they say, society, the fabric of society that holds our entire, country and planet together as a functioning society has been fractured or broken. And many leaders don't have a plan to put it back together. Many leaders want to fight the people who do want to put it back together. So why would you not prepare? The U.S. Army, testing all over the place, war games are being played. They're probably preparing for when everyone finds out what they did, or what they didn't do, rather. So, take it from there. I'm not going to make any claims I can't back up, but there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. So I think everyone's in their own way preparing or trying to flex their muscles and be like, listen, we got bombs. You have the United States, they're lining up their planes, naval ships moving, troops going here. It's just the way the world works. It's okay. All right, we'll do one more question and then we'll run out. I appreciate you guys. God bless you guys, and we'll keep it moving. I got some more stuff. I'll probably release my interview with Dr. Shiva today. It's on his Facebook. It's crushing. His YouTube is crushing. He's crushing in general. He's awesome. I like that guy a lot. He's a real one. I talk to a lot of people, and there's a lot of cool people, but he's someone he's very well educated. He has like 4 PhDs. He's done a lot of stuff in science with the body, all that stuff, but he really gets it. Like, a lot of people are smart education wise, but they're useful idiots. There's a lot of people in the, truther movement and such who get duped every other time. He really sees through it, and it's interesting. Really hearing his view on it. I love talking to that guy. Yeah, he's great. He gets it all, and it's funny because I don't have a massive education education/science degree, but those things that I do, I see through it all. I've seen through it. I do my own research. I mean, it's crazy because people are like, so much, you have a lot of information. Because I've been doing this almost full time for 2 years, every day I do hours of research. I've researched more in the last 3 years than I have my whole life. I never paid attention to school. I fell asleep. I got bad grades. I've learned so much every day. It's all acquiring. So it's kind of fun to be able to research your own stuff and do your own, that's probably why it's real, because it's not cornered. It's like, you do this now in the paper, and then we're going to grade it on a rubric. I don't need a rubric when I make a song or a poem. It's a free way to learn. And I think maybe that's the future if they're going to keep brainwashing so many people. All right. God bless you guys. Let's take off. God bless your family. God bless the world. Have a beautiful day. I'm going to leave this one up probably for a day or so. I'll probably leave it on YouTube probably forever. And then Facebook, I'll probably do 24 hours. The reason I do that, just to let you guys know, if you can't find old live streams, multiple reasons. One, on Facebook especially, but even on YouTube, I do these short videos that are really effective. They get more views. They're easier to share. They have infographics. To me, they're just better videos. So I like to leave those ones up because I don't want people, I just want people to get to the sauce. And also on Facebook and stuff, and even YouTube, I'm looser in this type of stuff, which is fine, but they're looking for a reason to try to say I'm not right, and in my other videos, I can really hone in where they can't do anything about it, where it's all real. But these ones, I'm looser and more fun. So I don't like to leave them up for 2 days because I'm like, they're already looking, they're already lying. I just don't want to for those reasons. They're longer, not as many people watch them. They don't get as many shares. They're not as easy to, learn because I don't have the infographics and such. And in general, it was a moment, it was a time period. After 2 days, most people don't watch the live streams anyway. They're like a very short thing, and the other ones have more life. So that's the reason I do it. It's like 6 different reasons in one, but I appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful one. I'll be back, and I got energy. I was in the sun for like an hour today. I got my back. I feel like Goku. I just get the sunlight, and then I just spaz on the Super Saiyan mode. And thank you to, Luc Montagnier. Thank you for being a Nobel Prize winning professor who discovered HIV according to reports, and for really going out there and saying what we've been saying for a while. This is going to take it to a whole new level, but they're going to try to probably suppress it. How do you really suppress that, though? This guy is no schmuck. They've done it to Crick, I think, from Watson and Crick, too. They destroyed his whole life, but we'll see. I'm optimistic. Have a good one, guys. I'll be back. Let's see. Facebook, we're done. YouTube, we're done.